Last week we saw the reveal of Nintendo Switch 2, and while that's very exciting, today we have a new leak that claims that one final large, big Switch game is coming to Switch 1, as well as a Pokémon Presents presentation and a Nintendo Direct focused only on Switch 1 titles is coming next month. This is very exciting news, let's get into it. Before we get into this video, I just want to thank everybody for their support recently. Thank you to everybody that's watched the video, liked the video, subscribed, anything like that, because it does really help us out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you are doing so. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Nintendo news update. Now today we're going to be talking about the Switch 1, actually, as a credible leaker has revealed that a big major Switch 1 game is actually coming for the Nintendo Switch. There is still one big major Switch 1 game still set to be released. This game isn't supposed to be a remaster, it's going to be a big game on what is known as quite a niche franchise, a quite small Nintendo franchise. It's getting a brand new game. This news comes from nintendosoup.com. Their article will be linked down below, go check them out. They claim that a credible leaker, an insider known as PH Brazil, is claiming this on a podcast, I believe. This was on the OXDo Control podcast. They said PH Brazil said that the Switch will receive one final big game, describing it as a new version of a beloved series and that is somewhat niche. It's also not a remaster. I believe this also was started on the forum Famiboards, and this user says, "Sorry if this has been mentioned already, but I'm listening to Brazil's latest podcast, XDC News 55, and he shared some cool info. He once again mentions that both a Switch 1 Direct and a Pokémon Presents for next month, but interestingly, he mentions that we're getting more than just remasters, which is always good. I imagine this is not a mini." When asked by his co-host if there's anything big in the Direct, he also mentions we're getting somewhat of a big game, the final big game for Switch 1, and refers to it as a somewhat niche, despite calling it a big announcement. He also describes it as a new version of a beloved series. So yeah, despite seeing the Switch 2 last week, there are already rumours and speculation about a Nintendo Direct in February. Now that makes sense. It makes sense for Nintendo to have a Direct in February to focus on the Switch 1, to talk about Xenoblade and some final games for Switch 1. That gives us enough time. It gives us a 2-month time slot of just waiting for that Switch 2 Direct. Because the Switch 2 Direct isn't happening until, what, April? That's a long time to wait. It's a long time for us not to hear anything from Nintendo. So I feel like that's been done on purpose so we have enough time to get a Switch 1 Direct out the way, and that makes sense for February. Now in terms of this game that's relatively big, I feel like this could potentially be something like a Fire Emblem sort of franchise, and that be quite a large game for the Nintendo Switch. Obviously it's been a while since we've had a new Fire Emblem, so I feel like now is the time for a new one. I also feel like now could be the time for something like Yoshi's Woolly World to finally come to Switch. That kind of thing, I feel like that will be a lot of fun to see Yoshi's Woolly World come to Switch. Just some final, just remasters, some ports. Even though this leak mentions there isn't many remasters and ports, it's mainly new games. Just some updates from Nintendo just to get us through the year. Now with the Switch 2 Direct being in April, I feel like we won't see the Switch 2 for at least the first half of this year. And because of that, we do kind of need a Direct or a Direct Mini just to tell us what's going on between now and June. Apart from the new Xenoblade remaster and the Switch Direct in April, we don't know about any news at all. We don't know anything from Nintendo, so a Direct not about the Switch 2 could be very, very helpful here. I feel like the Switch 2 is going to be saved for April, that's fine. Us Nintendo fans are fine with waiting until April for that, that's okay, but I feel like just a Nintendo Direct would be great to see. And to hear that we have one final large, big, exciting Switch game from a relatively niche franchise is very exciting too. I wouldn't really expect much for the Switch 1 now that the Switch 2 has been announced, but it's exciting to see that. I'm very surprised we are seeing new, big Switch games come to Switch 1. But, to be fair, we don't know how long Nintendo is going to support the Nintendo Switch 1 for. I mean, Nintendo supported the 3DS for a very, very long time after the Switch was here. I believe they actually supported the 3DS up until 2019. They actually supported the 3DS for a very, very long time after the Switch was here, almost 2 years after the Switch came out. So yeah, we could see Switch 1 support for a very, very long time. We know that the Metroid Prime 4 is coming to Switch 1, so they could talk about that in this Direct and say that it's a joint Switch 1 and Switch 2 title. They could also talk about some other games as well that are going to be on the Switch 1 as well as the Switch 2. Maybe Pokémon Legends ZA is going to be on there as well, maybe in the Direct. You know, we could see them come to Switch 1 and Switch 2, so it makes sense to have a Direct early on, you know, get some old news out of the way, get some old games that we already know about out of the way, you know, talk about Xenoblade, talk about Metroid Prime, talk about Pokémon Legends ZA in February. Get all of those games that we already know out of the way, ready for then in April. We can get the big games, the new games, the Mario Kart 9, the new 3D Mario, all of that revealed for the Nintendo Switch 2. And, you know, maybe that we'll see that in the second half of the year, especially with the holiday season coming up. That makes a lot of sense. Now, this is all speculation. This could not be true. I mean, we could just get that Direct in April. That could talk about Switch 1 games. But the rumours are starting for a Direct next month. We usually get a Direct sometime within the first quarter, so it makes sense. Now, of course, nothing is confirmed by Nintendo, and you might be thinking, yeah, this is too good to be true. And yeah, to be honest, there is a part of me that thinks that this could be too good to be true. I mean, having two Nintendo Directs be announced at the same time could be quite confusing, and it's very unlike Nintendo to do this. So there's one side of me that thinks this could be too much to be true and it's not real, and then there's another side of me that thinks maybe this could happen because it makes sense to get some Switch 1 news out of the way to be ready for the launch of Nintendo Switch 2. And, you know, it might actually feel a little bit weird getting Switch 1 games now we know that the Switch 2 is here, but that makes sense based on, you know, we know that the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible with the Switch 1, so Switch 1 games are still going to work on Switch 2, so it makes sense that Nintendo still want to support the Switch 1. Yeah, very, very exciting time to be a Nintendo fan. We don't know what this game is. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below, everybody. Do you think that this leak is real? Do you believe it? What do you think this large, you know, big game for the Switch 1, the final Switch 1 game, what do you feel like it could be? It's from a niche franchise. Many people are saying Fire Emblem. It could be something like a new Yoshi game, maybe a new Kirby game, that kind of thing, but I don't suppose they're too niche of a franchise. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you feel like we are ready for just a Switch 1 Direct in February? That makes sense. We've seen Nintendo Directs in February, March, that kind of time before. That gives us enough time before the Switch 2 Direct in April. So yeah, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think a Nintendo Direct is possible for next month? You know, just talking about the Switch 1, just wrapping up the Switch 1. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you in another video.